Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Ethereum, and we're going to be discussing the market cycle ROI, and then we're going to break it up into subcycles. We did this a few weeks ago. I thought it was time for an update. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So we discussed the market cycle ROI of Bitcoin frequently. It makes sense to also discuss the market cycle ROI of Ethereum because a lot of us expect to have higher returns with Ethereum as measured from market cycle bottom. Okay, and part of that is because Ethereum dumps a little bit harder than Bitcoin whenever we do have that capitulation. So the first plot you see here is just of cycle one. Okay, so this goes all the way back to August of 2015. It's the normalized ROI. This is on a logarithmic scale. For those who are unfamiliar with logarithmic scales, it just means the distance between each major tick is 10x. So this is 10 to the 0, which is 1. 10 to the 1 is 10. 10 squared is 100x. This is 1000x, and this would be a modest 10,000x. Now, last cycle, we went over 3000x from market cycle bottom. So a $1,000 investment in Ethereum at the bottom, or at the beginning, basically, would have yielded you over $1 million just over 2.5 years later. So it shows you how quickly things can appreciate. But when you look at the chart, it also shows you that it's not as quick as a lot of people think it might be. So this one shows the market cycle ROI of Ethereum from 2015, and then it goes all the way up to the top in 2018. But you can see that even though Ethereum put in amazing gains, there were periods of hundreds of days where it didn't do much of anything. Okay, it was just moving sideways. It even went down. In fact, the valuation of Ethereum against USD, I believe, had more than one 60 to 70% correction en route to this potential 1000x or over 1000x up to 3000x, over 3000 over the course of approximately 2.5 years. Okay, so a lot of these major moves come in short bursts over several months, and then things cool off for a while, and then it continues. So we had 3 of them. We had 1, 2, and 3. If we plot on here our current market cycle ROI as measured from the bottom in December of 2018, you get something that looks like this. Okay, now one of the things we can note, right, is, well, hey, why don't we break this into subcycle ROI and make comparisons and see where we currently are? Because if the implication is that, you know, within each cycle we have these sort of subcycles where Ethereum goes on a major move and then it sort of just does nothing for a long time, and then it goes on a major move, and then for a few months it does more or less nothing, and then it goes on another major move. Okay, this is what we had for Ethereum this current cycle. But what if we break the last cycle into 2 cycles, where this is 1, from this bottom to here is 1, and then this one is another? Well, if you do that, you get something that looks like this. So you can see that both of these sort of subcycles, this one and this one, actually look fairly similar, except the second one extended on. And then later we're going to even break that down into a third subcycle. So if we compare it to the one that started December 2018, this is what you get. Now, we could also do this. You might say, well, what is this? This is simply a mathematical exercise. Okay, what this is it's basically saying, you know what? We recognize that December 2018 was the bottom for Ethereum. Okay, we know that that's when it basically had its huge capitulation wick. However, we also recognize that if we're comparing it to the prior cycle, after the absolute bottom, that was when the bull market started. So we might consider looking at the market cycle ROI of Ethereum as measured from March 13th of 2020, when we had our capitulation. Now, it wasn't the exact bottom, because we know we went lower in December 2018, but the problem is after we went lower in December 2018, the bull market didn't start for another 1.5 years or so. So we can't really say this is not a good comparison, because we could argue that the first one, we just started it right when the bull market started, rather than identifying it as whatever bottom it was. And so this one, we're going to identify it like that. So, you know, I just want to say, like, it's nothing more than an exercise. You know, the last time I did this video, I had a couple people say, oh, well, you know, you should only measure it from December 2018, right? it's just an exercise, right? Didn't your doctor tell you to exercise? It's just an exercise. It's nothing to get too worked up about. Like, let's just focus on what it says. Let's see what it means. Well, if you take it as measured from March of 2020, you get something that looks like this, which shows us that, well, with Ethereum, we are in fact getting diminishing returns. Because at least, well, I guess we can't fully say that it will ultimately diminish at this point, but you can see that it's not moving up nearly as quickly as these two sub-cycles within its major market cycle. Now, what we could do is also do the same thing, but for the entire cycle. So this is cycle 1, and then this is cycle 2, as measured from March of 2020. And what's interesting is that this cycle has not really gone above the prior cycle. We came close to it, and maybe there's a few data points in here that potentially go above it, but more or less it is not. And we're approaching, by this point in the last cycle, we had already been moving sideways for several months. I mean, we're talking half a year of sideways movement. This cycle so far is actually more of a slower, more methodical move up. One thing to consider too is that, you know, if you want to make comparisons to Bitcoin, if Ethereum is one market cycle behind Bitcoin, you could discuss the idea that, well, maybe Ethereum's following Bitcoin like it did last market, like what Bitcoin did last market cycle, where it was more of a slower, methodical move up. Now, I don't necessarily think that's true, but so far you can see that Ethereum, as measured from March of 2020, is just slowly, well, not so slowly, but somewhat slowly, relatively speaking, in crypto, moving up and putting in really nice gains. And it's already up over 10x, close to 20x from March 13th of 2020. Now, what if we break this other cycle up into 3 cycles? So we say this is 1 cycle, this is 2 cycles, and then this one's a 3rd cycle. Well, then you get something that looks like this, and then if you break our current cycle up into 1 cycle, you get this. Okay, so we can see that each of these sort of arms, as extended from its normalized ROI for each sub-market cycle for Ethereum, they're sort of getting lower here. And this one's not moving up quite as fast as the prior one. So it might seem crazy that we're still underperforming last market cycle, but it just goes to show you how crazy last market cycle was. Now, there's a decent chance that at some point during this cycle, we will trend sideways for several months. We already sort of did it here for a little while. I mean, it doesn't look like much, but this is about 100 days or so. So we could do it again, and we could go sideways for even longer, or we could have these 60 to 70% corrections, which still could take us en route to a much higher valuation of Ethereum. So I think that, the purpose of this video, I just want to accomplish showing you that sometimes you just have to sit back and relax. Okay, sometimes you just sort of have to sit back and relax and look to see where we are. Recognize that, as I've always said, time is on our side. Okay, we're probably going to have corrections along the way. I will agree with that. We've already had fairly substantial corrections already with Ethereum. It went from like over $2,000 down to $1,300. Of course, that's going to turn a few stomachs. We're probably going to have even more substantial corrections as we continue on. So I think it's the people that stay disciplined, that go in it with a plan, and that stay focused throughout the cycle. Those are the people that win. The people that they get so worked up over every single day and, what's it doing today, these people are going to have problems, I think, in ultimately being successful in crypto. So try to change your mindset. If you look at this dip that we had from $2,000 down to $13,000, it's almost comical how people get so up in arms about it when you wouldn't even notice this on say, like the last market cycle. You just sort of looked at it went up. You don't actually zoom in and say, oh yeah, this was a 70% drop right here. We had a lot of 60, 50% drops. But that's not necessarily talked about as much. But when you're living in it, it's a lot easier to feel the pain. For the people living in this, it was a lot harder to deal with that. When you take a step back, it makes it look like it was a cakewalk, but we know it wasn't, okay? Just like a move from $2,000 to $1,300 isn't going to be easy for some people to stomach. A potential move from $3,000 to $1,500 would probably turn a few stomachs. So I would say be patient, take a step back, recognize that time is on our side, even if we do get corrections along the way. At the very least, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel to get updates, right? We'll walk through the market cycle together. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Let's go for 250,000 subscribers. We also have the premium list altcoin season sale. You can check out the link to that in the description below. Make sure you guys check it out. You get access to the weekly reports and videos, the Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, the risk dashboard, the Into the Cryptoverse app, the weekly reports and videos, and more. So you get access to a whole lot of stuff. Make sure you guys check it out. At the very least, subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon to turn on your notifications. Give the video a thumbs up. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye.